Nobody saw who paid the hospital bill. Nobody knew where $35,000 came from. But nearly 3 years later, when she finally understood, the truth arrived in the quietest, most unexpected way. October 1990. Maria had 72 hours to find $35,000, or her husband would die. The local hospital could not treat his rare cardiac condition. He needed to be transferred 3 states away, a medical flight, immediate payment required, no payment, no transfer, no survival. She had called everyone. Her parents had nothing. David's family was struggling themselves. The bank denied the loan within hours. She sat in the cardiac unit waiting area at 2 a.m, back against the cold wall, knees pulled to her chest. The air smelled like antiseptic and fear. Her hands were folded so tightly her knuckles had gone white. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. She had 48 hours left, maybe less. Down the hall, someone was crying. Maria closed her eyes, trying to remember David's laugh, the way he hummed making Sunday breakfast, small things she had taken for granted. Maria went to the billing office to beg for more time. Her voice had been hoarse from lack of sleep. Her eyes felt swollen. She had rehearsed what she would say, how she would plead, how she would promise to pay in installments somehow over years if necessary, anything to buy David a few more days. When she returned to the waiting area, her face had gone blank, shocked. The billing office had called her in. The transfer was arranged, the payment processed in full. A law firm in Los Angeles had wired the funds overnight. No client name, just a case number. The hospital administrator had checked 3 times. The money was real. The medical flight was scheduled for dawn. Maria stared at the printed confirmation sheet. The numbers looked real, but none of it felt real. The next morning, something impossible happened. She asked, again, who paid it. The administrator shook her head. The law firm had explicit instructions, no disclosure. Whoever had done this had made absolutely certain they would remain invisible. David was transferred within 12 hours. Maria rode with him, holding his hand the entire way, listening to the machines keeping him alive. She just watched him and wondered. The specialist hospital saved his life. Within 2 weeks, David was stable. Within 6 weeks, he was walking. Within 3 months, he was home, sitting at the dinner table with their children, fixing the porch railing he had left unfinished. But Maria never stopped asking the question. Subscribe for more untold stories. Would you have written that letter? She called the billing office a dozen times. She contacted the law firm in Los Angeles. They refused to disclose the client. She hired a lawyer to trace the wire transfer. Every lead ended in silence. Whoever had paid the bill had made absolutely certain they could not be found. The trail was cold, deliberately cold. At night, after the kids were asleep, Maria would sit at the kitchen table with cold tea in front of her. The house would settle around her. Small creaks, the hum of the refrigerator. She would sit there for hours, circling the same question. But she never said the name out loud, because years before any of this, there had been a summer. The summer Maria never talked about, the one that left her different, quieter, like she had lived something beautiful and painful at the same time, and the only way to survive it was to let it go without looking back. She had been 19. He had been 22. They had met by accident, the way most important things happen. A recording studio where she had been working part-time as a receptionist. He had come in late one night, alone, looking for a quiet place to work. They had started talking. Small talk at first, then deeper. Then the kind of conversation that feels like discovering a language you did not know you could speak. They had spent 3 months talking about everything and nothing, sitting on the beach at night, the ocean dark and endless in front of them, the sound of waves filling the silence between their words, walking through empty streets after midnight, the city asleep around them, sharing silence like it was a language only they understood. He had told her once that silence could be its own conversation, that some things did not need words, that the loudest feelings were often the ones you never spoke out loud. She remembered the last time she had seen him, the way he had looked at her, like he was memorizing her face, the way he had said goodbye without using the word, the way he had left, quietly, the same way he did everything. She had watched him walk away and had known, even then, that she would carry that summer for the rest of her life. 5 years later, she met David. He walked into the bookstore where she worked, looking for a gift for his mother. He was the kind of man who remembered details, who listened when you spoke, who asked questions and waited for real answers, who built bookshelves in every room of their house because he knew Maria loved being surrounded by stories. He was steady, reliable, present. She married him. She was happy. She had made peace with her choices. She had chosen safety over longing. She had chosen a life she could hold on to. And now, someone had saved David's life. Someone invisible. Someone who did not want to be found. Maria thought she knew who, but she could not prove it, and part of her did not want to. Nearly 3 years passed. Life moved forward the way it always does. David went back to work. The kids grew taller, louder, more independent. Maria started painting again, bolder colors this time, scenes with more light, landscapes that felt hopeful instead of haunted. On the surface, everything looked fine. Better than fine. They had been given a second chance. They were living it. Then, in January of 1993, she saw him on television. It was a Thursday afternoon. Maria had been folding laundry in the living room, the television on in the background. One of those daytime talk shows she never really watched but left on for the noise. The host was interviewing someone about anonymous charitable donations, about families who had been helped and never knew who helped them, about the philosophy of giving without recognition. And then the camera cut to him, Michael Jackson. Maria's hands stopped mid-fold. The shirt slipped from her fingers onto the couch. Her heart did something strange, something she could not name, like it had remembered a rhythm it thought it had forgotten. Her breath caught. She sat down slowly, eyes locked on the screen. The host asked him why he insisted on staying anonymous with his donations, why he never wanted recognition or credit, why he did not want people to know. Michael smiled. It was tired, gentle, sad in a way that felt familiar, like an old scar you only noticed when the light hit it a certain way. His voice was soft when he answered, almost a whisper, and then he said something that made Maria's entire world tilt sideways. He said, "The loudest gratitude is often the kind you never hear." Maria stared at the screen long after the segment ended, long after the show moved on to something lighter, something easier, long after the commercial break came and went. She sat there perfectly still, her mind racing backward through time, through memory, through that summer when they had sat on the beach and he had told her that silence could be its own conversation, that some things did not need words, that the loudest feelings were the ones you carried quietly. She understood, or thought she did. She wrote the letter that same night. It took her nearly 4 hours. She sat at the kitchen table and wrote by hand. The pen felt heavy. She did not plan the words. She told him about David, about the hospital in October 1990, about the 72-hour deadline, about the $35,000 that had appeared like an answer to a prayer she had not known how to pray, about the years of wondering. And at the end, she wrote the line she had been carrying for nearly 3 years, the line that felt like the only honest thing left to say. The loudest thank yous are the ones left unspoken. But I want you to know, I still remember that beach. I still remember what you said about silence. I never forgot that summer. I never forgot you. She sealed the envelope before she could change her mind. Her hands were shaking. She addressed it to his management company in Los Angeles. She mailed it the next morning, standing at the blue mailbox on the corner, watching the envelope disappear into the slot, feeling like she had just released something she had been holding on to for too long. 2 weeks passed. Maria did not expect a reply. She told herself she did not need one. But part of her kept checking the mailbox anyway, kept listening for the phone, kept hoping for something, anything, a sign, an acknowledgment, proof that her letter had not disappeared into the void. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late January, she was sitting in a cafe when she saw it again. A small television mounted in the corner, an entertainment news segment. The reporter was talking about recent charity work, about hospitals and children and families who had been helped. And then, suddenly, there he was. Michael Jackson. A brief clip from an interview recorded the day before. Someone had asked him, again, why he stayed anonymous with his giving, why he did not want the world to know what he did. He smiled, the same tired, gentle smile. And then he said, very quietly, like he was speaking to one person instead of millions, "The loudest gratitude is often the kind you never hear." Maria's hand stopped mid-reach for her coffee cup. Her entire body went rigid. She stared at the screen, eyes wide, lips parted. Something broke open inside her and sealed shut at the same time. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred. She whispered under her breath. He read it. She kept staring at the screen even after the segment ended. Her coffee grew cold. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying, because those were her words, not exact, but close enough that only one person in the entire world would recognize them. He had not copied her letter. He had answered it. The air left her lungs. He had not written back, but he had replied. She never tried to reach him again. She did not need to. The message had been received, quietly, completely, in the only way that mattered. That evening, David found Maria standing at the kitchen window, staring out at nothing. The sun was setting. He asked if everything was okay. She nodded without turning around. Then he asked her the question he had asked a dozen times over the years, the question that had never quite left either of them alone. Had she ever found out who helped them back in 1990, who had paid the hospital bill, who had saved his life? Maria turned to look at him. She shook her head slowly. She told him no. She had never found out for certain. The words felt true and untrue at the same time. David said he wished he could thank them someday, that he thought about it often, more than he probably should, that he owed someone his life and did not even know their name, that it felt wrong, somehow, to live with that kind of debt unpaid. Maria just nodded. She turned back to the window. She said nothing, because some things were better left quiet. Some thank yous were louder when they were never spoken aloud. Some debts could never be repaid, only honored in silence. Years later, long after Michael Jackson was gone, Maria would tell her children the story. Not all of it, just the parts they needed to hear. She would tell them that once, when their father was very sick, someone had helped them. Someone who never asked for anything in return. Someone who believed kindness did not need a name. Someone who understood that the most meaningful gifts were the ones given in secret. Her daughter, the older one, asked once if Maria ever wished she had thanked him in person, if she ever regretted not knowing for certain. Maria thought about it for a long time. Then she shook her head. "No," she said. "Some things are better left quiet. Some thank yous are louder when they are never spoken aloud." He knew. That was enough. Her son asked if she ever found out for certain it was him, if she ever got proof. Maria smiled, the same tired, gentle smile she had seen on that screen all those years ago. "I knew the moment I needed to know," she said. "And that was the moment he let me know. If kindness is truly silent, does it need to be confirmed to be real?"